Hey there, thanks for tuning in to my YouTube channel. We're studying and going through the book of Job, and this is titled Washing of the Word, and it stems from the disciples getting dirty and Jesus washing their feet. Just like that, we live in a world where we're bombarded by technology and media and radio and TV and events, and we just need to be cleansed and washed in the Word. So right now we're in Job 32, and I'm sure you are familiar with the book of Job. He's going through his incredible suffering up till chapter 30 through chapter 31, and his three friends have so-called friends have not comforted him in any way, and Job mocks them by saying, "Oh, what wonderful comforters you are!" And but here in chapter 32, we have Elihu. This is the fourth person to come into Job's life to help minister to him. And he's a young man, and he hasn't spoken up or said anything to Job because of that. He was afraid of what others would say and not take his word seriously. So he comes on the scene here in chapter 32. Thanks for reading along with me. It says, So these three men stopped answering Job. Finally, because he was righteous in his own eyes. Job was holding to his integrity and said he would hold to it. But one thing I want to add and say here is that yet Job didn't do anything wrong, and we know that the forces of good and evil behind the scenes between the conversation between God and Satan took place and played itself out in Job's life. Job is really showing his hand of self-righteousness here. He's saying, I've done this and this and this, and I haven't done that and that and that, and therefore this shouldn't happen to me. And he's kind of shaking his stick at God. And that's kind of the heart right now. Just it's real subtle, but it is surfacing in Job's life. And so here in 32, Elihu begins. Verse 2, But Elihu, son of Barachel, the Buzite of the family of Ram, became very angry with Job for justifying himself rather than God. In other words, if there's anybody that's correct and right and without sin and that has no wrong, it's God and God alone. And as Christians, we know that. Paul says, in me dwells no good thing, that is in my flesh. Apart from Jesus, you can do nothing, and that's any of good or lasting value. Outside of Jesus is sin, and he was the sinless one and always will be. And so that's kind of what's being brought to light here by Elihu. He was angry with Job for justifying himself rather than God. Verse 3, he was also angry with the three friends because they had found no way to refute Job and yet had condemned him. Now Elihu had waited before speaking to Job because they were older than he. But when he saw that the three men had nothing more to say, his anger was aroused. Sometimes God will use anger in your life. I call it righteous anger. The anger that where in your anger do not sin kind of anger. An anger that fuels you to action and a good action. And that's kind of the case here with Elihu. His anger was aroused. Verse 6, So Elihu, son of Barachel, the Buzite, said, I am young in years, and you are old. That is why I was fearful, not daring to tell you what I know. I thought, age should speak, advanced years should teach wisdom. But it is the spirit in a man, the breath of the Almighty, that gives him understanding. It is not only the old who are wise, not only the aged who understand what is right. Verse 10, Therefore I say, listen to me, I too will tell you what I know. I waited while you spoke, I listened to your reasoning. While you were searching for words, I gave you my full attention. there's a lot of things that older people pass over. They don't pick up on. They don't notice. And part of it's their age. Part of it's they maybe been there, done that. And I think that's something to learn from this verse here. That in verse 12, Elihu says, I gave you my full attention. A younger lad would be more attentive and more attuned to maybe his surroundings or what's going on. He says, but not one of you has proved Job wrong. None of you has answered his arguments. Do not say, we have found wisdom. Let God refute him, not man. But Job has not marshaled his words against me, and I will not answer him with your arguments. They are dismayed and have no more to say. Words have failed him. In other words, the words of his three friends have dropped and fallen to the ground. They had no effect. Must I wait? Verse 16. Must I wait now that they are silent? Now that they stand there with no reply? I too will have my say. I too will tell what I know. For I am full of words, and the spirit within me compels me. Inside I am like bottled up wine, like new wineskins ready to burst. I must speak and find relief. I must open my lips and reply. I will show partiality to no one, nor will I flatter any man. For if I were skilled in flattery, my Maker would soon take me away. There Elihu is sharing his fear of the Lord with his friends. He is very clearly saying in 22, if I were skilled in flattery, in other words, if I were using flattery for friends or to gain attention or whatever, my Maker, God, would soon take me away. It's a real humbling fear of God statement there before he even says anything. And notice the introduction here. This is something I enjoy in the book of Job, is the literature in this book. It's beautiful language. It's thought to be the oldest book of the Bible, and the literature in here is incredible. That whole chapter was simply an introduction to what Job was going to say. So we'll continue on, and thanks for listening.